Level 1, the applicant. You find the listing on a government jobs website on a Tuesday night. It does not say CIA. It says something like professional opportunities in national security. The language is deliberate. Everything about this process will be deliberate from now on. You are 22 years old. You studied international relations at a state universities and you speak passable Farsi because your college roommate's family was Iranian and you spent 3 summers at their house learning the language for no reason except that you liked how it sounded. That will matter later. You submit your resume. The hiring process can take up to 2 years due to the depth of the background checks alone. You are told to be patient. You are also told something immediately and clearly. Do not discuss this application with anyone outside the agency. You tell nobody. Not your mother, not your girlfriend, not your roommate, whose family taught you the language that got you noticed in the first place. The phone interview comes 6 weeks later. The voice on the other end gives no name. It asks about your travel history, your finances, your drug use in a tone so neutral you feel like you are being asked about the weather. You answer honestly because the agency has made clear that a lack of candor is the single most common reason an offer gets withdrawn. They send you a psychological assessment next. A psychologist asks about your childhood, your relationships, and what you would do if a close friend admitted to passing information to a foreign government. You take your time answering. Only 17% of people given conditional offers actually pass the full screening process. You are one of them. You get the call on a Friday afternoon. You sit in your car in a parking lot for 10 minutes before you drive home. You feel proud. You feel afraid. Both are exactly appropriate. Level 2, the trainee. They send you to Virginia. Camp Peary is a classified CIA training facility near Williamsburg, roughly 9,000 acres of dense forest behind a fence with no signage. The outside world calls it the farm. You will call it the hardest 6 months of your life. On the first morning, you meet a class of people who will become the closest colleagues you have ever had. You will not know their real names for 3 months. Everyone here goes by a work name. You pick yours in under a minute. By the end of the first week, it feels entirely natural. That is your first lesson in how quickly the brain adapts to this kind of life. The curriculum covers everything from dead drops and brush passes to defensive driving, speedboat handling, parachuting, weapons qualification, and SEER training, which stands for survival, evasion, resistance, and escape, and which includes a simulated interrogation that nobody fully prepares you for. You are taught surveillance detection routes that look like an ordinary walk, but tell you within 3 blocks whether you are being followed. You learn to leave a chalk mark on a specific wall that communicates a full operational message without a single spoken word. The facility itself is a constructed environment complete with a fake embassy and a simulated town. You run operations against fictitious targets played by instructors who have done all of this for real. They know every mistake you are going to make before you make it. They write on clipboards and say nothing when you make them. The simulated interrogations are the hardest. They take your watch, they give you nothing, and they wait. The point is not to break you. The point is to show you exactly how far you are from breaking, so you know where your edge lives. You pass your assessments. You are handed your first cover identity and a posting assignment. You read the instructions twice on the plane. Then you read them a 3rd time. Level 3, the junior case officer. Your first posting is in a mid-sized European capital. You are under official cover. which means you have a desk inside the embassy and a title that sounds administrative and forgettable. This is intentional. Forgettable is protective. Your actual job is recruitment. You are trying to find people with access to information the United States government wants and convince them to share it. You go to embassy receptions, trade conferences, and cultural events. You are present wherever important people gather. You listen carefully, ask questions that sound like small talk, and remember everything. Your first serious target is a mid-level official at a government ministry handling sensitive procurement contracts. You encounter him at a trade reception. The initial contact is a bump, an apparently accidental meeting designed to create a reason for a follow-up. It goes well. He is talkative and flattered. Over the next 4 months, you meet for coffee, then dinner. You learn about his marriage, his debt, his resentment toward a supervisor who denied him a promotion he believed he earned. You file reports after every meeting. Your station chief sends back notes. The notes are corrections. You are moving too fast in some moments and too cautiously in others. You adjust. The recruitment fails. The official transfers to another city and the relationship dissolves naturally. You feel it in your chest for a week. Your station chief buys you a coffee and tells you that most recruitments fail, that the ratio is roughly 8 losses for every gain, and that you will stop feeling each one individually after a while. He says that is both the good news and the bad news. Your third serious attempt succeeds 18 months in. A source inside a neighbouring country's trade delegation. The first time he passes you something with genuine intelligence value, you write the report at 2:00 a.m. and lie awake for the rest of the night, feeling the full weight of what you have just done. You are running a human being. His risk belongs to both of you now. Level 4, the asset handler. You are on your second overseas posting, a city in Southeast Asia. You now speak 3 languages with operational fluency. Your surveillance detection routes through the city feel as natural as a commute. You are managing a network of 4 active sources across 3 sectors of interest, debriefing them, writing intelligence reports, and developing new contacts simultaneously. The work has a rhythm. The rhythm is relentless. One of your sources is a woman who works inside a foreign government's energy ministry. She has been providing information for 14 months. She is meticulous and brave, and you respect her genuinely. She has a daughter who is 6 years old. You know this because she mentions her in every meeting, and you listen to everything. One afternoon, she is not at the meeting location. She is not at the secondary location either. 3 days pass. You report this to headquarters. Headquarters tells you to wait. She surfaces 2 weeks later. She was questioned by her government's counterintelligence service. Routine, she says. Routine is a word that covers many things. She says she revealed nothing. You believe her. Headquarters reviews the contact and authorizes continuation. You are relieved, and you notice that part of your relief is operational rather than personal, and you sit with that for a while. You meet her one final time before your posting ends. You tell her across a quiet restaurant table that a new handler is taking over. You watch her absorb this. She asks if the new person will understand the situation. You tell her yes. You hope it is true. You fly home for 2 weeks of debrief. You sit at dinner with your family and you say very little about where you have been. You answer questions about the city, the food, the weather. All of that is accurate. None of it is the truth. Level 5, the deep cover operative. 3 people in a windowless conference room ask if you would be willing to go NOC, non-official cover. Unlike case officers working inside embassies, NOC operatives have no diplomatic immunity. If captured and charged as spies, they are subject to severe criminal punishments, up to and including execution. They are trained to deny any connection with their government, which preserves plausible deniability, but also means no official acknowledgement, no legal assistance, and no rescue. You say yes without taking long to decide. Preparation takes nearly a year. Every NOC constructs a legend, an elaborate cover identity designed to survive serious scrutiny. The CIA builds you an employment history in sustainable infrastructure finance, a professional network, a digital footprint stretching back years. You learn this identity the way an actor learns a character, except this character has to hold up under a foreign intelligence service that will verify every claim you have ever made about yourself. You perform the duties of your cover role during the day and spend 3 or 4 evenings each week in clandestine meetings with sources cultivated through that cover. You are living two lives and neither of them is fully yours. Your parents believe you work in finance. Your sister believes this too. At your father's 70th birthday dinner, you answer questions about your work, and every answer is technically accurate from your cover identity's perspective and entirely false from yours. You are very good at this by now. Being good at it has its own cost, and the cost compounds quietly the way interest does. Level 6. The burned operative. Your cover breaks on a Tuesday morning in spring. Headquarters contacts you through a protocol that means urgent and real. A foreign counterintelligence service has flagged your identity. The exact source of the breach is unclear. It may be signals intelligence. It may be a compromise somewhere else in the network. It may be a pattern analysis algorithm that noticed your travel did not quite fit the profile of a finance consultant. You follow the exfiltration protocol immediately. You do not go back to your apartment. You do not contact your cover employer. You travel a pre-planned route to a border crossing using documents that were waiting in a location memorized 18 months earlier. You are out within 36 hours of the first warning. Headquarters debriefs you for 2 weeks. Every meeting, every source, every location is reviewed in sequence. The damage assessment determines that 2 of your sources are at heightened risk. One is extracted safely through a parallel operation you have no part in because you are already burned. The other cannot be reached in time. You are told this 3 weeks later by a case officer who delivers it in the same tone one uses to read a flight schedule. You sit in a windowless room and feel that information settle into a part of yourself you know will not fully empty again. You are reassigned to an analytical role at headquarters while the agency determines your next use. The work is important, but you miss the field the way you would miss a limb, specifically and constantly. Level 7. The station chief. 8 years later, and 3 postings after that, you are off of the station. The chief of station is the senior CIA officer at a foreign post, holding final authority over intelligence collection, covert operations, personnel, and liaison with host nation security services. The station you are given is in a country where 2 major geopolitical interests converge and where the human intelligence environment is complicated enough that headquarters has invested heavily for more than a decade. The structural tension between a station chief and the ambassador is real and well documented. The ambassador answers to the State Department. You answer to Langley. When those 2 institutions want different things at the same time, you are the person managing the gap without letting it degrade operational effectiveness. Your ambassador is reasonable. Not all of them are. You know chiefs who spent their entire posting navigating that relationship instead of running operations. You manage a team of 12 case officers. You spend more time on personnel than on operations, and nobody warned you this would be the case. One officer is excellent but overconfident in ways that create exposure in a hard target environment. Another is technically precise but struggles to build genuine rapport with sources. These are the problems that determine outcomes. You lose as an asset to a counterintelligence sweep in your second year. The subsequent review concludes that the source's tradecraft had been slipping before you arrived. This is accurate. It does not make it easier. You sit in the station after the review is filed and you think about the assets, family, and then you close the file and plan the next operation because that is the job. Level 8, the Senior Intelligence Officer. You are 47 years old and back at headquarters. There is grey in your hair and a permanent tension in your upper back that you have stopped trying to diagnose because the diagnosis does not change anything. You are the institutional memory now. Junior case officers come to you when something in the field has gone wrong and they do not know who to call. You sit in meetings with generals and senior policy staff. You write requirements that shape what every station in the world is tasked to collect. You brief people who make decisions that affect millions of people using intelligence that your officers risked their lives to gather. The bureaucratic dimension of this level would have seemed unimaginable to you at 22. You spend significant time in rooms debating classification decisions and source reliability ratings. These are genuinely important questions. They are also very far from the field, and you feel that distance in a way that resembles something like grief, but is not quite grief. It is more like an awareness of a former self that no longer exists in the same form. Intelligence officers cannot legally discuss classified material with outside therapists, and many worry that seeking help through internal channels could affect their security clearances. You sought help once after a difficult posting. The therapist was a former officer himself. He understood the shape of the problems without needing the classified details. It was more useful than you expected. You recommend it to younger officers now. Most of them do not follow up. You understand why. You were the same way at their age. Level 9, the Deputy Director. A 7-month review process that includes 3 panels and a 2-hour conversation with the director confirms you to a senior executive position. Your schedule is managed by a staff of 5 people. You have a secure phone that rings at any hour. On a typical morning, you are reviewing a summary of reporting from every active station globally before 7 a.m. You brief the director. You brief the National Security Advisor. On certain topics and on certain days, you brief the President directly. The first time you do this, you are struck not by the weight of the occasion, but by the familiarity of the material. You know it better than anyone else in the room. That is why you are there. You lose as case officer in the field on a Thursday in October. She is 34 years old. The operation was compromised in a denied area and she did not come out. Her name will be added to a wall inside a building that most of the world does not know exists. The agency adds a star to the wall for each officer killed in the line of service, without a name attached if the identity must remain classified. You meet her husband at the ceremony. He asks what she was doing. You tell him you cannot share that. He looks at you in a way that you will carry for the rest of your life. You tell him she was exceptional at her work and that her work mattered. you mean both things completely. Neither of them answers the question he actually asked. Level 10, the retired ghost. You retire in the spring. There is a small ceremony in a conference room. Someone brings a cake. You walk out of the building with a pension and a security agreement you signed in 1997 that governs what you may say for the rest of your life. You do not think of it as a restriction. You have been living inside it so long, it is simply the shape of things. You move to a house in the Blue Ridge foothills. It has a porch that faces east. You sit there in the mornings with coffee and watch the light move through the trees. You are 58 years old. Former intelligence officers commonly report that the way of life in clandestine work is so different from ordinary civilian life that adjusting after retirement takes years. Some cannot fully let go of it. The awareness, the wariness, the habit of reading a room before you enter it. These things do not switch off because you handed in your badge. You see a therapist in the nearest town. She is not a former officer. She does not know the specific contents of your career, and you cannot tell her most of them. You tell her the feelings instead of the facts. This turns out to be enough. The feelings are the same feelings anyone who has spent decades making consequential decisions in secret would have. She understands feelings. That is sufficient. Your grandchildren visit on weekends. They run across the porch toward you with a total and uncomplicated enthusiasm that is the simplest thing in your life. They grab your face with both hands. They do not know what you did for 30 years. They will not know for a long time, and even then they will only know the parts that can be said out loud, which is a fraction of it. You do not find this sad. It is simply the arrangement. Somewhere right now, a 22-year-old is submitting a resume to a website with careful language that does not say who it belongs to. They have a language they picked up for no particular reason and a curiosity about the world that will not leave them alone. They do not know what they are beginning. The thing they are walking into is older than they are and larger than they can currently measure, and it will ask from them more than they have been told to expect. They will give it anyway. And if they make it all the way to the other side, they will sit somewhere quiet one morning and try to make sense of where they have been. The sense comes. It just comes slowly, and only if you sit still long enough to let it arrive.